Okay, good morning all. It's evening over here. So it's good evening from the UK. Good morning over in Sydney. I hope you're all well and doing good. Had a good weekend, guys. And today we're going to do a good seminar. We're going to build on the work we've been doing. And it's going to be, the emphasis will be seeing through a different point of view. In the book, it's page 45. And it's about being able to, for a number of reasons, seeing things from a different point of view, which we'll go into as we go along. As always, I have emailed some background reading. When you get time, read it whenever you can. And the exercises are quite useful too. And as always, guys, if I can help in any way, always just an email away and I'll send you through whatever you need. One thing's for sure is success in sports is a matter of degrees, guys. I've worked with people, not just in football, as you well know, for many years, and you've probably heard some of the radio interviews I do, some of the best sports people in the world. And one thing I ask, and you'll probably have noticed, I always ask them, when did you believe you're going to be a top performer? It really intrigues me. At what point does one believe? And you kind of get a sense that this sort of self-awareness that they have is a big thing. And that's a theme we're going to cover as we go along too, because I think that's really important. And we sort of touched on belief before, but we're going to touch on it again. So you sort of kind of see, you get a sense that there's sort of millimeters. Now, I ask also what psychological work they do, what mental skills they do, and everybody's different. Everyone's on their own journey. And as always, I share ideas, and it's entirely up to you what you take out of the ideas that I share. But we do know, in sports, it's a split second, following a certain direction. For me, I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. It's about being the best you can be. Just be the best you can be. And for me, that's success. You can't ask anyone to do more than that. There's many variables in one's career, but be the best you can be. And sport is a many variables, injury, illness, loss of form. And the reality is that, not like to go on about it too much, but you do need a bit of luck every now and again. But obviously you minimize how much luck you need, because, when you work hard like you guys are doing, you're training and you do sort of every component to be successful in the game, you cover every variable, you give yourself the best chance. But also, I've been very, very mindful of the program we've been running and about giving you, hopefully, things you can transfer to life in general and business where applicable, and academia. So the idea today is seeing it from a different point of view. And sometimes in perspective can be enlightening to our thoughts and feelings. Seeing situations from different perspectives of competitors, teammates, coaches, and fans can go a long way in helping you understand their point of view. I have a tremendous respect for the other opposition. I've told you before, the teammates, coaches, fans, all these sort of things. Yes, I'm an expert in my field, but you'll know if you've worked with me before that I sort of like to hear what everyone's got to say. I think it's really important when I'm working with a team. I listen to the coaches, the players, the fans as well, and everybody really, to get an idea of what their thoughts are, what the team is. It's just a really, really way to look at things. And I'll sit back and I'll think and think, well, what can I do to contribute to help go from where the team is, where the players, to where they want to be. That's a big thing. And I'll tell you something one time, guys, which is really interesting for you shortly. But there's a really good proverb I saw one time: don't judge a person till you walk 2 moons in their moccasins. So sometimes we can make judgment. It's a chain proverb, and we don't know, people behave in different ways, mysterious ways. Sometimes they've got their reasons, and I'll touch on as we go along why that's sort of really important. But what I want to sort of touch on first of all, before we move on to that, is something really interesting for me. There was one time we played against this team. It was an FA Cup knockout match, and we played against this team. I'm pretty sure it was an FA Cup knockout match. It wasn't the league. I'm pretty sure it was an FA Cup knockout match. Might have been the league a long time ago. Anyway, more importantly is in the first half we absolutely, just outplayed this team beyond belief. It just, you couldn't get more one-sided game. We completely dominated from start to finish in the first half. We go 1-0 up. We couldn't get the second goal. You've all been there, guys, where you've sort of scored and you just can't get the second. And then all of a sudden, they score 1-0 half-time. I'm thinking at half-time, okay, this is going to affect the psychology of the players. Truth be told, it affected me as well initially. I had to sort of, go for a walk for a couple of minutes and think, what do we do? Had to think from the point of view of the players. And I looked around the coaching staff. I looked around in the dressing room and I thought, okay, I'm going to think the way they're going to think. I'm going to try and connect to their sort of reality and think, okay, what do we do next? It's a dangerous situation to be in because you outplay a team, you sort of have about 20 shots and 5 or 6 shots on goal, maybe 10 shots on goal. You should be converting, maybe even more, probably 14 shots on goal. You should be converting about, every 5-7 shots, you should be converting a goal. But anyway, we didn't do that. They score off one chance deflection in the second half, and sort of it was really interesting, really, because I was a physio at the time. He brought it to my attention. He noticed the players were kind of down, and you could see. And we made a conscious effort to pick everybody up and say, "Look, we play like that again. We play to that level again, and we can do, even if they raise their game." We'd have to be very, very unlucky to get knocked out here. And we ended up winning the game 2-1. But what was really interesting, guys, is there was a couple of lads in the other team. And I saw them one time in the gym. And this was in pre-season. I was in the gym, doing a bit of work in the gym. And these lads, and we sort of, as you do, it's like in the footballing world. We're against each other. We sort of see each other off the field. And we said hello and we had a bite. And we talked about this game, and they said to me that what sort of got them was they were clinging on up until halftime. We got the goal, and in their minds they thought, "Oh no, if they play at this tempo again, we're in trouble." And we made a conscious effort, guys. We walked out of the tunnel in the second half to stand straight, to sort of show that we weren't fatigued in any way. Obviously we had, everyone's going to be fatigued, but we made a conscious effort to sort of show that it was okay. We weren't bothered that they come back. It's okay. It happens in football. And he told me, one of the lads told me, because that was the thing that sort of threw them off. They thought they were going to be disheartened. And see, sometimes you can't make these assumptions, and it's good to know what people are thinking to a point. Obviously, you can never know. But you study behavior, and that's sort of my area, is to sort of, study that and think, how can we influence that? Because you can see these things influence things. These things, they're subtle things. On Saturday, I went to the game. One of the teams I work with, non-league, I went to go watch. We played. It's like a pre-season friendly type thing, and I went there and I sort of sit in the clubhouse so I can see the game from a different view. But I sort of watched the game from my perspective, from the variables that I'm asked to work on, physical and sort of mental, and I watched that and I listened and I watch the players and the body language and all these things, and because we have to be totally focused. We've got a fantastic manager, great coaching staff, great players. And the idea is to peak at the right time. That's the sort of key to it all. But the point being is, you got to have this sort of ability to sort of connect to people and sort of think, okay, what's going through their thoughts? What's going through their mind? in these situations in terms of, where might they be? And you've got to be focused on running your own thing, running your own race. And that's the important thing, peak at the right time. If you've got a trial, guys, coming up, then the reality is that you need to peak for that. Okay. And it's difficult sometimes because you might have a trial coming up and then you could have like a big cup match. You could have a big league game. And it's hard because you kind of think, well, you don't want to prioritize one for the other, and you play every game, but sport, you're just going to peak. And there are things you've got to think about. And there are things you've got to speak to the coaching staff about. Obviously, I'll help where I can and think, how do I taper the training, and what do I do to sort of, because as much as people say, yeah, you're going to every game, and, it's these sort of little things. I say little things. It's like, you watch the game on the weekend, you probably saw it. I watched it on TV, the Chelsea versus City game on TV. I watched it on TV, and it was really interesting for me because there was no sort of, obviously there's a lot of changes there for both teams, but I still think in saying that, these moments you get a psychological edge. You get these little psychological edges when you beat teams. The momentum is key, irrespective of which lineup you put out. Many months ago, when I had an inkling that sort of, my prediction was when the manager took over at Chelsea, my prediction was they would win the Champions League. This is record. You can come back to me and say, I felt at that time because you've got a manager who's got the experience of winning it, but not saying, obviously Pep's a great manager too, but the point being is that it just seemed to me, I don't know him anything like that, but from what I can see from the outside, he seems to be really adaptable in his way, and cup football looks good, and just the way the games are. And you watched the game earlier in the week, I saw it on TV2 versus the Real Madrid game. Even though they outplayed them, you could argue, and had many chances, they just stuck to their guns. That's the key, and that's things we can learn by watching. That's what I mean, learn. So I watch games and I watch them to learn and see, and I'll watch and I'll speak to people as well, and that's the sort of key. That's today I want to sort of focus on how you can learn as well from different people. I think, okay, what would that person think? And even if you don't know the person, you can sort of get an idea of what their beliefs are, what they do, just sort of passively from watching them, going forward, which is key. So one of the ideas behind this technique, when I sort of show you the technique later, is also sometimes you get where I've done the technique. So there's disagreement between the coach and team player, or one person gets upset where they get left out, or two players have an argument for whatever reason, and these things happen. So I've used this technique to sort of make the peace sometimes with conflict resolution. Sometimes these things happen, these fallouts happen during a game, the emotions are raw, and this is where I've used this technique, and you can sort of go through it as well in the book, and when I show you, if you ever need it, it can be quite useful, because in football, in a team, guys, you don't need to be, people's best friend. If your friend's great, fantastic, but you've got a job to do. If you're professional, the job is to win football matches primarily. I've been in teams where certain players haven't got on at all, but that's okay. I've got no issue with that. If they don't get on, they don't sort of invite each other to parties, whatever, or the christenings, whatever they do, not a problem. But on the field, we have to play. We have to get on. It's really important. And sometimes, be naive in thinking that you go through a whole season, there's no fallout. I worry when there is no fallout sometimes, because when people fall out, it means they care. Okay, if you go knock on our manager's door and say, "Well, I'm not playing," and you get upset about it, any manager worth their salt will appreciate you doing that, but there's a way to do that. And that's the key. There's a way to do it. You knock on the manager's door and say, well, okay, can you explain why I'm not playing? And you'll get a logical answer, and it's up to you to decide what you do going forward. But you need the team harmony, guys. It's really important as a team. It's hard enough the other team wants to beat you. Then the higher up you go, sometimes people want you to lose, and it's hard enough as it is already anyway. If we're not together, you know, then we're going to sort of struggle. And you guys are not there to make the numbers up. You're there to sort of be the best you can be. And there's sort of key things I've used as well for that. Sometimes, you know, people, you were seeing it before. I've been with coaches as well. We've seen things differently. The way a coach might handle a situation. I've had players come to me saying that they felt the manager handle a situation in a certain way. Never ever would I sort of entertain a player, you know, who would come up to me and sort of, you know, this has to be done properly, sitting down. If the player has the issue with the manager, then it has to be done properly. There's none of this, you know, behind the manager's back and he's this or she's this or whatever. It has to be discussed, open. You know, it's really important all staff are together and unified. That's the sort of key point. You know, the manager makes decisions sometimes, you know, and I've known many managers, it's hard to please everybody, especially with a big squad. For the most part, they make decisions based on the best of their ability. You're going to upset people. I worry about a manager if they please players. If a player never moans about, if a manager has a career where players never moan about the manager, then I'll worry about the manager because, you know, it's likely they're a people pleaser. So that throughout the manager's career, there's going to be plenty of players who'll say, you know, he did this or whatever, she did this, if you know, for example, and that's okay. The manager's job is not to sort of to be liked. You know, the manager's job is to sort of coordinate the team to be and do win matches. You probably know what you're saying that for? Well, because these where little fallouts happen, and when these things, I'm telling you now, lads, when there are sort of fallouts and there's no harmony in the team, I've seen plenty of teams in my sort of career, sort of watching and seeing, and you know, when the team is not playing together, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're in trouble. You've got to stick together as a team. If you're not together, you're not unified, you're not playing well, it doesn't matter how good you are. We've seen teams that have fallen out with each other. They just struggle. They get nowhere. And we see it sometimes when you see teams that the manager gets sacked, same players, new manager comes in and start winning. And this is one of the challenges these days, guys, of modern football, because at the very highest level, it's changed. As you're well aware, at the very highest level, there's not money in the game. It's different. There's more player power in that respect. And it's really important that the manager's always got the players on side. Otherwise, it becomes an issue. So this technique here is based on perceptual positions from Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP. The goal, I'll show you in a structured way. See how you can see it from a different point of view. It's straightforward. You can do it in a matter of minutes. So you can do this technique any point, which will help you get it more understanding. The technique in this chapter is very powerful when you use it even in personal life to resolve conflict, in business, alter perceptions, in sport to gain strong understanding of colleagues, opposition, critics, fans. Seeing it from their point of view can help you move in a different direction. Because the idea is you get stuck. You get bogged down. Someone said this, someone said that. This is a good way for you to sort of get unstuck and move forward. We have to always move forward, guys. We're moving forward. We don't stand still for too long. When we stand still, I'll mention before, I'll mention it again, the shirt that we have in the dressing room gets taken. That's the way it is. None of us rest on our laurels. I don't rest on my laurels. I'm performance-based. Nobody does. So examples of where I've used this technique: player fallouts, when players aren't selected, when manager perspective. If I want to get perspective of the manager, then that's quite useful to sort of see, and just various perspectives, and that can really help to move forward, which is sort of key. But also, one manager I work with would use this a lot in this way. he'd say to the players a lot, and I probably wasn't even aware he was doing this technique. Similar to this technique, he'd say to the players how the opposition would see you in the context of the game. Now, I want you to think about this. I mean, this manager, he'd always say to the players, for me, it was really interesting. He'd say to the players, imagine what they think about playing us. Okay, and this would boost the players, knowing that whatever's going through their minds, perception of them was one in which the opposition knew they went for a tough game. So sometimes players think, okay, we're going to go to this other team. They're in a higher league than us. They've got these players, big name players. But then you've got to tell the players, imagine what they think of you, and you've got to think about this, guys. If you go on trial somewhere, wherever it is, and or you play for a team, you've got to think, well, okay, don't spend too much time thinking about putting them on a pedestal. What will they be thinking of you is the key as well. I mean, wow, this guy's going to come along. Give that impression. That's the key, to it all. It's like when Tony used to do the tours. Tony Bash used to do the tours. Obviously, at the moment, there's the pandemic, traveling restrictions and all that sort of stuff. And, hopefully at some point the tours come back again and, they're great. But it's really interesting because, you got the academy, you got these players, together, and no team in Europe fancied, I know it was about development, the players developing and younger players getting opportunity to play against, some great teams, some of the biggest teams in Europe. But, it's nice to get sort of good performances and results. And I knew, and we talked about it, that teams wouldn't fancy playing against us because they knew they were in for a game. They knew that a Tony Basher team is not going to go there to make the numbers up. They knew that a team I was not going to just go there to make the numbers up. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to prioritize results for development for younger players, but winning is a habit. So we win in a development way, great, so we're going to give as good as we get. And the word spreads quickly. They know straight away. They know, and you can tell the players, and, you can tell the players have been involved in sort of such tours, and they'll tell you themselves, no point me telling you, ask them, the perception of the teams when they arrive, and that sort of stuff. We soon gain respect of the opposition. So you're involved in the academy, people are going to think, okay, these Australasian Soccer Academy lads, well, they're fit, they're strong, they're tactical, they've got good technique, they're mentally strong, they've got a healthy respect for you guys. And that's good to know, because sometimes you kind of undermine yourself and think, okay, you go to a team in Spain, in the UK, you see these teams on TV, and that sort of stuff. You see certain players on high profile players, and there's a lot said about them, but the pressure's on them, guys. The pressure's on them to keep their position. The pressure's on them. The pressure isn't on you. You can relax, you can play, there's no pressure on us. You can enjoy your football. It's up to them to keep their shirt. It's up to them to sort of, to perform, and that's the sort of key. You just enjoy the game and you go out there and you play. But remember that they'll be thinking, okay, so looking at different views, I think it's a powerful thing for me, to remember that and what I want you to do before I show you the technique, and this technique, I've demonstrated it in the way I would demonstrate it for coaches with players, but you can adapt it for various things. But I want to say one thing, which is really important, and a really important thing to do when you play a player against a player, an opposition player. Study the player. Learn, not just what they do technically. I know it's hypothetical because we can't go into someone's mind, but we can get an idea. You take a deep breath, you think, okay, what would this player think of me? If you're trialing in a club, in sort of Europe and whatever, whatever it is, and in your position is somebody that everyone raves about, this person this and this, that, and you think, oh, no, I've got no chance here, type thing, then you've got to say to yourself, well, actually, what's this person thinking of me? I'm the unknown quantity here. They're established. I'm going in. I'm going to have to perform better to a point, but I'm going to make a big splash here. So if you imagine it from their point of view, guys, the established player, they're playing for a team, the way they're going to see you, okay? The way they're going to see you, and you might think, well, they're not even going to, they're going to think about me. Of course they will. You know, of course, that's, you know yourselves as players. If someone signs for your team in your position, you think, let me, what's going on here? You soon raise your game. That's the key, and that's the whole point, and that'll give you confidence to know that, okay, you're perceived as a person who can, providing you hit form, give them a good run for their money. And who knows beyond that? That's the key. And I'm not just saying it applies to playing in Europe, any other league around the world. It could be the top league, in Australia, anything really, a league higher, whatever. I know a lot of you guys play at a high level anyway. The point I'm trying to make here is that, study the mindset of the opposition. So I'm not saying, you probably think of Jim every week, give me all these techniques, these things, and that sort of stuff. But the thing to really think about where I'm concerned is that that's what I do. That's my role. Like the fitness coach, he's always looking for new fitness ideas. The tactical coach, what the football manager 10 years ago is different to now. You have to learn new things. If you won things 10 years ago, now 10 years later, these ideas are gone. So what I have to do in my job is stay at the forefront and always look for new ideas. Generally, I look for scientific interventions because obviously, my studies are in sort of, science-based. I studied for many, many years. If techniques work, I keep them. If there's new ones I can see, I use them. So it's up to you to think, okay, well, I'm giving you a number of processes you can use where they're applicable. Not using them all the time. There are ones we're going to focus on, like the visualization. You do that every week or every day, if possible, 10 minutes. Getting in the zone. These are key things. There's 3 or 4 key ones. And beyond that, these you bring out as and when. But for me, doing my job to the best of my ability is to sort of demonstrate some of these things, which are useful for you in sort of helping you get to where you want to get to. So before we sort of go and sort of, I know you're looking forward to training. It's Monday and you're out there. We're going to sort of demonstrate step by step how you can do this, which is quite useful. So you can see here, I've got it down for sports coaches, but you can, as well as being a coach, do this as a player in a formalized way. And like I said before, it could be conflict resolution. It could be if you're not playing for your team and you want to get into an insight mentally in what the manager's thinking. So it could be if you fall out of a player in a team. So it's entirely up to you how you use it. You might not have anything to use it for, and that's okay. It could be that, and I've done this technique for many different reasons. Okay, for many different reasons with coaches. From anything from they fall out of a player, so see from their point of view, because you don't want to make the fallout worse, or maybe a fan said something and they're upset by that, or maybe a parent said something they're upset by that, and they sort of get a bit of an insight, and then they can sort of put some closure on it, which is key. And you probably think, well, you're never going to know what someone else is thinking. Well, you won't to a point, but you can at least move forward. So think of a situation that didn't go as well as you'd like it to go. An interaction, it could have been with a coach, a manager, it could have been with a player. So I usually get to talk about it first of all with the person I'm working with. So 2 players argue, or 1 player is upset they haven't been selected, then we'll talk about it. Okay, tell me your thoughts. I don't take sides. I'm not judging anybody, just trying to break it through. Then I get them to see it from their point of view. Okay, sometimes the players, they'll close their eyes, the manager, and they'll see the interaction between them and the other person. From their point of view, what was said. Okay, the feelings. And so to take away any learnings. Okay, so just sort of taking time. So I've had this before. Sometimes, players fall out in a game, one player complains, the other one didn't pass it to him or her, and they can sort of think about that. But see it from your own eyes, first of all. Then see it from the other person's eyes. So here I've got the player's eyes. The coach will see it from the player's point of view. From this perspective, you can see it from the other person's point of view. So see it from the coach's point of view, the manager's point of view, another player's point of view. Imagine being them. Okay? If you're not comfortable imagining being them, then imagine sort of standing behind them. And notice the interaction. Okay, notice things from their point of view. How they might see it. Okay? What they might see. So you see from their point of view. Then see it from an observer. So here, once again, I've got it as a coach, seeing the situation. But you see it from an observer. Now think about someone you sort of admire enough to sort of give you some sort of input. Someone watching you have an interaction with somebody else. If that's an argument with a manager, a coach, a player, and see what their perspective is. It could have been a clash of strong characters, who was in charge situation. Okay, and there's sort of some thoughts on these. Okay, sometimes you get, strong characters and new perceptions. And at the end of it, you go back into being yourself. And what you do is, should the situation arise next time, how would you handle it differently? Okay, now you could say, well, this is hypothetical, but it gives you room to move forward, guys. The art of seeing things from a different point of view is an opportunity for you to take action. Release any negative emotions, any frustration, and take responsibility on moving forward. You probably think, well, why should I be the one to take responsibility? Well, if you don't, then who will in terms of moving forward? So the technique, the key thing is here, guys, and this is sometimes with the coaches I do, when a coach-player fall out either way. So the first part is the sort of history behind situation. What's going on. Then the key thing is, after you've sort of thought about it from your point of view, so maybe, for example, so I've had this situation before where, for example, when I work independently, I wouldn't necessarily do this technique on its own, working within a team, but when players come to see me one-to-one, then if they're saying that they're complaining about the manager not playing them, and they might have had a fallout with the manager, then I'll get them to imagine it through their own eyes. What their thoughts are, how they feel, okay, their perspective. Then I'll get them to see it from the manager's perspective. And when they see it from the manager's perspective, for example, this one player, or plenty of players come along that should be playing, they see it from the manager's perspective, they see things differently. I'm not saying it could be unjust. I'm not saying it's right. It could be the manager left them out for various reasons, but it helps them move forward. But it could also be that it might have been a tactical change. It could have been a number of things. Then by seeing it from a neutral observer, you detach yourself from the emotion. You diffuse it. Okay? Because there's nothing worse than a player coming into training who's not focused. Okay? And then by the end of it, what do they learn from it? Okay? I know it's a technique. It's a little bit different to what we're normally doing, and it's more geared towards conflict resolution, but I think it'll be useful. When I thought about putting this technique in the program, I thought, okay, these young lads, great bunch of lads, and I thought this would be useful, not just in football, but for life in general too. Especially, for example, you go for a job interview, or maybe you go for a trial in football, you don't get the role, and you get upset. I was thinking, if you go for a trial somewhere, and you get frustrated because you don't get taken on board maybe, and then that frustration, you get another opportunity, and then you start to believe, and it's never going to happen for me, and become the victim, and and that stuff, do yourself the best chance you've got. So I thought it was a useful technique to know and sort of depersonalize things and, clear anything that's going through your mind. And also in your own career, there'll be times when you do get left out by a manager. You do get frustrated by a player. You do fall out with a player, And I'm not saying this is about all is wonderful and, peace and great, and you phone the player up and all is sorted. It's about you, like I said before, I've had players before that have fallen out. Now, I can't afford to lose both players, guys. The team can't afford to lose both players or one of them. So we're not saying they've got to be best friends, but what they have to realize is they've probably fallen out because they both care so much about their playing performance in the team that they can, in that 90 minutes, play, because you can't bring what's gone off the field, or you can't bring these squabbles on the field. Okay, at the very highest level, one weakness, the other teams will exploit it straight away. So sometimes, I've been peacemaker, pastoral. Okay, well, how do you think the other player sees it? Okay, well, how do you think, and both. So I'm not taking sides. How do you think they see it? How do you think they see it? Okay, fair enough. Okay, the blinkers are off. Calm down, we go forward. Okay, frustrated, the manager's not picking them. Well, how do you think they see it? You've got to pick 11 players, from the squad. They're going to make the best decision they can. Yeah, sometimes they pick players for various reasons too. It might be a realization that the reason that you're not picked, it could be politics. It could be for whatever reason, who knows? Maybe they signed the player for a lot of money and have to justify and play the player. Or maybe the player's related in some way, to the coaching. Who knows? I don't know. But what won't do you any good is the sort of the frustration and the anger. So you need to sort of be able to release that and sort of go forward. And there's a good technique for that. That's one of the reasons why I put this technique in there, because there'll be times in your own career, not just in football, but in life, sometimes you've got to see people say stuff, if we take it personal, it's not a good idea. Most of the time it's not even personal. It's about them, not about you. Next week, we're going to sort of back to the drawing board again. We're going to do a realignment technique. We're going to sort of reassess. We're going to profile again, monitor your progress. We have to be, guys, watertight on your progress. We have to make sure that we are meticulous, we are professional, we do everything we possibly can in every area to keep you improving. That's what we have to do. And next week, we're going to sort of focus on a session which is about realignment, checking the profile out again for you to be able to sort of be really self-aware. Where am I on the big scheme of things? Where do I need to be? So I'm going to bring that back in again next week. It's a really important session. And it's useful because you're working with me. You got this, and the great thing is to doing it on a Monday. If there's anything you need to tweak or change, then you've got the coaching staff to help you with. You can email me. We have to keep going forward. We have to keep training hard, the best ability. We keep going every day. Not every day in training is like we want it to be, but you have to keep giving 100%. And as I said earlier before, to conclude on this technique, remember who you are, remember who you represent, okay? And remember whenever you play against opposition, that however you think they might see you, it's probably different. So if you play against a team, a player, it doesn't matter who it is. I can tell you now, we keep working hard, we keep going. The last year or so, obviously things have changed around the world and traveling and so on and so forth. But as and when, you get back out there again and things can change, it's all about going out there when you can and you play games and giving a good account of yourself. So, the academy players, for me, you as academy players, one thing's for sure, with the training you're doing, the way you're working, teams will have, and other players will have the utmost respect for you. They'll know you're doing and working hard, and you keep it that way. Back yourself, believe in yourself, and make sure that you keep your standard. As always, you know my details. If you need to email me for anything, no problem. Have a good week, guys. Put it all in training. Leave nothing in the tank. Go out there, play, train as you play. 110%. Give it all you've got, irrespective of the situation. You keep going. Give it 100%, and we go again next week. Thanks, guys, and have a great week in training.